Welcome, Jazz Hands. Woo-hoo. Akechi, I met recently, and she's part of the 10W London group. She has 20 plus years of experience in financial services. She's an advocate for next generation leadership and diversity and inclusion. She is the director and partner for Accenture UK. She's a speaker, coach, and business transformation expert. She also writes for Forbes, speaks internationally, and she was awarded Management Today's 35 Under 35. It is a great honor to have her here, and we'd love to hear whatever you would like to share about your story. Thank you for being here, Alishi. So warm welcome, Jazz Hands. Woo-hoo.
Thanks. Thank you. Very, very nice to be here. I will just correct you. So it's about 11 years experience as opposed to 20, but still.
Hey, young.
Yeah, exactly. No worries. So look, really nice to be here. I think there's definitely a European vibe, so apologies to our presenters, but you can't tell from the accent, I am from the UK. I'm from London, but I'm calling at the moment from Paris. So I work between I live between as well, both cities at the moment. And let me tell you a little bit more about me. So I'm going to take it back as well, like Barbara, and I think Ajit as well. Born and raised in London. I think at the moment you don't tend to find many people in London who are from London. So sometimes when people meet me, they're like, wow, a true Londoner. So yes, I'm a true Londoner. I was born in a place called Brixton that you may have heard of. But when I'm one of 5 siblings, and when I was about 3, we moved to Wimbledon. So the two are very different in terms of the look and feel, particularly when I was growing up. Brixton right now is far more accepted as a place. It's more cosmopolitan, let's say. Whereas back when I was born there was definitely a larger Black community, and with that there was more racial tensions in Brixton, and crime as well. So whereas on the other hand, Wimbledon, that you may all know of because of the tennis, is predominantly a white neighbourhood, and it's the opposite side, and it certainly was the opposite side of the social scale as well back then when I was growing up. So one of my youngest memories is when all 4 of us at the time, so my 3 siblings, so there were 4 of us at the time, as opposed to my last brother who was born in Wimbledon. I remember on moving day, Mother said to us, as well as along with many other things she said on moving day, but I remember she said, don't tell anyone you came from Brixton. So from day one, we learned that we had to fit in, right, from day one. And as we were going to this new home, it definitely felt different. It looked different to my very, very early memories that I could remember. I was just about old enough to attend some nursery back in Brixton. So grew up in Wimbledon. I didn't really appreciate that I was the only person who really looked like me in terms of being a Black female, until I got to school. So a few years afterwards, and you're really interacting with your peers. And I think the teachings from my parents, and I'm from a Nigerian household. So if any of you have any Nigerian friends, you'll know that there's a lot of discipline as well as a lot of colour and food. But it was definitely a traditional, disciplined, and very loving household. And disciplined in the sense that there were probably 3 core rules that we took away, and I certainly took away growing up. First was you need to work hard, because no one else is going to get there for you, and you cannot rely. I always remember my dad saying to us, don't wait for your teachers to teach you, just go and do the work. So that was number 1. Number 2 was you've got to work harder than your peers, and this was a big one, and simply because we looked different. So they were already prepping us for the world to come, because as we know, life isn't always fair, and it's not always going to come down to what you look like. But I think being prepped from such an early age was quite helpful. Another early memory I have is dad. He was very much an academic, but was in engineering, so similar, I think, Barbara, to your background. But he, we had a study, and he brought home this big whiteboard, and we thought, what are you doing, Dad? And it was for us to have extra lessons after school. So that concept of work hard, work harder than your peers, because in order to get to the same level potentially, you need to work even harder, was instilled in us from a very young age. And the third piece was have belief. So as well as working hard, combine that with the belief. And I think, Aji, you said it very nicely when you referred to the negative comments and thoughts that are going to be out there in society. If you have them in your own mind, then you're doubling that kind of impact. Whereas if you can surpass the negativity that is going to exist in your mind, or if you can try to, you really will see that a lot is possible. So those are the three things I think that really cemented. I've had to look back on how I've got to where I've got to, simply because I've been asked the question a lot of times: how did you get to being a very young Black partner, female partner, in a very large corporate firm? Accenture, we are a large management consultancy firm, so I am the corporate between our panelists. We employ over 500,000 people globally. We have a female CEO based in the US. So it's very much a large corporate beast. And when people ask me, what is your story and how did you get here? It's something that I've had to dig a little deeper on and understand not the practicalities of what I've done over the last 5 years, but actually, why did I do that? Why am I rooted the way I'm rooted? For the good and the bad. So I'm really pleased to be sharing my story here. But I think those three things have really helped to cement my journey along my career. And something that I'm uber passionate about talking about is the aspect of next generation leadership. I think, again, Aji, you mentioned it, and also Barbara, you touched on it in terms of diversity, inclusion, the aspect of innovative thinking and creative thinking. I'm a strong believer that your mindset will get you far. And for me, it's definitely been something that I've lived by. There are probably 10 aspects of next generation leadership that I have used throughout my career, not always at the right time. Some I've only recently just learnt, but I definitely feel like I've used 10 different things throughout my career. And I'll touch upon some of them, or try to touch upon all of them, and then I'll probably give you a few examples on some. And so, sorry, I've got a client calling me, so they're going to have to be on hold for now. But yeah, juggling real life here. I think, as I said, I'm going to try and give you an example of some of them, and I know I'm going to get strung up on time soon. But I think some of the things that I touch upon are things like having empathy with sincerity. So really being true to, when someone says, hey, how are you? Like, do you genuinely mean it? Because when you say that question to your teams and actually care, that you've actually taken the time to understand what they're doing over the weekend, or they said to you what they're doing on the Friday, but you follow up. Have you actually specified names or the actual places that they said that they're going to go to? When people used to ask me, how do you manage to juggle all the things in work and outside of work? One answer: good teams. Constantly building good teams. We have to try to, and looking after your team. So that for me is a really big thing. Advocacy for something, so standing for something and having that being clear to your brand, and being visible and approachable. It's all good to be an advocate from afar, but you need to be an advocate, a proud advocate and a loud advocate at times when a voice is really, really needed. The things, I think I'm being rushed for time, so I think the things that I will touch upon, as I said, there's probably 10 aspects of next generation leadership. I'd love to share more with you. The thing that, the big example I think is probably my promotion to being a partner in the firm. And I remember being told, you haven't been, at the previous level long enough. This would be, whoa, this would be something new. I'm clearly a black female. There's not many black female partners. I think I am the only, I'm one of 7 black partners in the UK, and we're 500,000 people globally. So a lot of odds were stacked against me, but I just kept going. I didn't listen to the negativity. If I did that, then I would probably be constantly doubting myself. So the mindset that you need to employ is huge. And I think the other aspect for me was storytelling. Knowing how to tell your story is massive. And I think, Erin, we did not plan this, but you talked about storytelling up front. It's one of my favorite topics in terms of next generation leadership. Anyone can be a leader. We all have stories, and the ability for you to actually sell and tell your story next to the person who is probably more traditional looking, it doesn't really matter. What matters is what you say and how you say it and how you connect with people. So for me, learning how to, I had a number of interviews for that promotion, interviews on video as well, given we're a large firm, interviews with people I'd never met before, and I had 30 minutes, a bit longer than a 2-minute pitch, but 30 minutes to sell my story and be quizzed on my story. So for me, that aspect of branding, knowing myself, knowing how to get my message across, was massive. And that's another thing that I think next generation leaders are doing really, really well. Just look at Black Lives Matter and look at Greta in terms of just everything she's doing around, regardless of your views, everything she's doing around ESG and the community. So I think those are definitely some aspects. I think I'd also love to touch upon the entrepreneurialism that we've heard about today. I think even if you're in a corporation, the aspects of thinking like an entrepreneur, having the ability to take risks. Never do I price a deal or do I do work with a client these days, which is straightforward. A lot of them have got a lot of risk baked into it. And yes, I fall behind a big corporation and we have a team of legal people and financial people to support us. But in terms of finding creative ways to sell something to a client or to engage a client or to re-engage a client, it's that constant churn, that constant belief of it doesn't matter if I break the status quo, right? Even if this isn't the way we do things, especially in an organization like Accenture, 500,000 people with so many processes. I hate processes. I hate being told what I must do. It does feel like I should leave at many points and just do it the way I want to do it. But hey, that's how it is. But I think the aspects of, that kind of entrepreneurial mindset that I talk about is really important, I think, for anyone, whether you are an entrepreneur or you work for a large corporation. I think I'm about out of time, am I? Yeah, I'm out of time. Okay, so I could talk about this for a long time. I can send you guys some links because I didn't finish the top 10, so I will do that. But yeah, really happy to be here and take any questions. Thanks.
Woo!